Sprite Castle. Sprite Castle. Sprite Castle.
Mr. Rob O'Hara.
Sprite Castle.
Hey, good morning. How's everybody doing today? It is Wednesday, hump day. It is the day after the United States presidential election. A day in which normally we elect a president. But this time it seems to be the first of many days in which we count votes. Good times. So, the good news is, oh, you know what? I'm not doing this for effect. I'm doing this because I forgot. But let me turn off those lights in the background. There we go. That's a little better. So, the world is on fire. Things are going terrible. And you know what that means? It's a good day to wake up early before work, like I have today, and play a Commodore 64 game. Now, this week's game is also the game that's going to be featured on this week's episode of Sprite Castle, and that is Pitfall. Now, I know what you're thinking. Pitfall 2. What a great game. I love Pitfall 2. Well, I'm playing Pitfall 1. I'm playing the original, which was released in 1982 for the Atari 2600, and 2 years later, both Pitfall and Pitfall 2 were released for the Commodore 64. There's a fun little title screen here. Let's see, Activision. I guess the official name is Pitfall Harry's Jungle Adventure trademark. I always like it when something... I guess I could hit spacebar here. I'm not going to use any cheats today, even though I should, because I played this last night, and I'm pretty bad at this game. You know what helps me wake up in the morning? A nice cup of Commodore coffee. But Rob, I heard you say, didn't he write 2 books? Didn't he also write a book called Invading Spaces? Oh, it's on the back side of this. Back side of the mug. So, let's put this over here. Pitfall was released for the Atari 2600 in 1982. I'll be talking all about this on this week's episode of Sprite Castle. And Activision did very little updating to the graphics or gameplay or anything else. Wow, my hair is a mess. I probably should have fixed my hair this morning. That's what I look like when I roll out of bed and I come in here and I drink some coffee and then I play games. So you're getting the whole pre-work morning experience this week. I hope you watched last week's video where I played Friday the 13th. That was a lot of fun. I really do enjoy that game. So, Pitfall, I'm sure you've probably seen it for the Atari 2600. If you haven't, I can't imagine that you haven't. I can't imagine anybody with a remote interest in video games has never seen Pitfall. Pitfall is considered to be the first actual side-scrolling platform game. Now, I will tell you, and this has nothing, I don't think it has anything to do with emulation. I don't think it has anything to do with, it definitely doesn't have anything to do with my computer or anything like that. This game is slightly sluggish. I noticed that there is just a slight lag sometimes in my joystick controls. So, if you don't know, I'm assuming that you do. Oh, that was close. You are Pitfall Harry, and you are in the jungle, and you are in search of treasure, which hopefully I will find some here shortly. Surely I won't die before I get to the first treasure. On your adventure, there are obstacles that will kill you instantly, and obstacles that will just minorly hurt you, and the ones that hurt you just take points away. Oh, I started a little bit too far away. So this is a gold bar, even though it looks like a chocolate Hershey bar in this version. Oh, it does have slightly better sound than the Atari 2600, but really not much. It's just that they use two voices on some of those things. So these are, and there's different terms for these in the manual, I think. Like this is a disappearing tar pit, even though as a kid we just thought it was a hole that was appearing. But there are tar pits, and water and holes, and then you have these crocodile things where you have to jump. You have to stand on the back part of their head when their mouths are open. I'm gonna let this log hit me, and you can see that it just took points away like that. But it won't kill you. But the logs are one of the few things that you can hit that won't kill you. Most everything else kills you. There are scorpions down in the bottom, which I'll talk about here in a minute. There is fire. There are snakes. Now, it's funny. I did see in the manual it referred to the snakes as cobras, even though it very obviously has a rattling tail like a rattlesnake. And so I misremembered when I was writing my notes. I said that you had to hold on to the button originally to hang on to the vine, but like in Sammy Lightfoot, but that's not the way it works. Once you touch the vine, you're just stuck to the vine, and you pull down or towards you on the joystick to release from the vine. Now you can if you're very fast. Just go, go, go. Go, Pitfall, here you go. On this week's episode, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the cartoon series. I'm going to talk about the commercials that were kind of famous for this game. We're going to talk a little bit about David Crane. I'm not going to talk... Oh, man, that was like 1 pixel from death. I'm not going to talk too much about Activision because I've already covered a couple of different... went over far enough. I will say that in this game, you can run to the left or to the right. It's your choice. And in the instructions, David Crane says he suggests going to the left because you'll notice that you always drop down to the left whenever you lose a man. And so his reasoning was if you drop down to the left, you will already beat the obstacle that just killed you. I like doing this. Oh, psyche, psyche. There's a scorpion down there at the bottom. So the when you're traveling across the top of the game here, as I am on the top, the surface level, every screen it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So when you go to the next screen, it'll be the next screen, and so on and so forth. On the bottom, when you're going through the subterranean, see, that doesn't look like a cobra. I mean, it looks like a rattlesnake. When you're going through the tunnels down there, it's every screen in the tunnel is actually 3 screens up at the top. So the goal of this game is to collect all 30. Oh, too late. I'd like to blame that on lag, but that was on me. Oh, my game is over. I didn't even get more than 2 treasures. So to get all the 32 treasures, which is the ultimate goal, you won't have enough time if you only go on the surface. But by going on the tunnels underneath, it often leads to dead ends. So you kind of have to either have a cheat map. I'm going to hit F1 and start over here. You either have to cheat, or just make your own map, or just learn the game. So we're going to go this way. So obviously you notice the idea. So like I just fell in that hole, and now I fall to the left of it, so I don't have to face the same thing again. I'm doing that on purpose. I'm not really that bad. Also, the other thing is that, okay, that one I did not do on purpose. Okay, let's do it a little bit more seriously this time. Is that you're running, oh my gosh. You're running in the same direction as the logs. So you don't have to jump every single log as long as you're constantly running. Oops. yeah, there's something, just a very, very minuscule lag in this game, and I don't think it's anything in my setup. You know what? I should throw it. You know what, you guys? I should show you. The other problem with running to the left is that those. Hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to show you this. So I should be able to go here. Now, here's a kind of a bug. I don't like this. It's obviously switching something with the color limitation, but notice how Pitfall Harry has black hair and black pants on this version. But when you go down the ladder, he has brown hair and brown pants down here. And I'm sure that it's just, again, it's a color limitation. These guys are much harder to jump than in the Atari version. So notice, now I'm all the way back to the front screen. So even though I have gone over 6, by the way, this is really a terrible strategy, is to go both ways. You won't get very far in the game. No. There was a version of Pitfall released for the Commodore that came with Gary Kitchen's Game Maker. Gary Kitchen is also an Activision programmer. And I believe it is slightly different than this version. I'll talk about this a little bit on the episode, but I think one of the that's my fault. One of the biggest downfalls with this game really is that other than a very, very, very slight increase in sound effects, it doesn't take advantage of Commodore 64's power. And again, I just talked about this on a Sammy Lightfoot episode, but I mean, if the trees are slightly more detailed, and Pitfall Harry, I mean, I don't even know that he looks that much better. I guess he's got hands. I don't know if he has hands on the Atari version. But I mean, really, and I don't want to spoil the whole episode, but if you also, I want to point this out too, while you can actually see it. The vine is much thinner than the Atari 2600 version, which, there's a technical reason for that, right? I mean, on the Atari version, just would have slightly larger pixels, but because it's so thin, it makes it hard to see on this version, at least for me. Oh, no, stupid. See how thin it is? Oh. Should be a snake. Oh, look at me. Look at me with my memory. Should be croc. This is a lot easier than jumping on their heads. Oh. I missed that. So anyway, you start the game with 2,000 points. You lose 100 points for falling down a hole. You lose points for touching a log, however long you're touching it. But you also have 3 lives. And so the ultimate goal of this game is to get all 32 treasures. There are, I think, 8 gold bars, 8 silver bars, 8 bronze bars, and 8 diamond rings. I think that's what it is. And so the idea is to get as many of those treasures as you can. Oh. Pitfall Harry. Darn you. The other thing I would mention is I have plugged this book so many times. I really enjoy it. There's a book called Racing the Beam. Oh, look at that money bag. So it's gold, silver, money bag, and diamond rings, and they all have different values. There's a book called Racing the Beam, and I believe it covers 6 different specific. It's Atari 2600 games, but there's an entire chapter about the development of Pitfall, and it is absolutely fascinating. I mean, and there's one part where David Crane, who wrote Pitfall, talks about not having enough memory left in the game to display how many characters, I think, or how many free men or extra men you had remaining. And he had to, make a shortcut in the code and do something. He had to do something to conserve memory so that he could, draw a box on the screen. And so if you have never thought about it or appreciated, how much coding and how limited the programs were. Again, the original Pitfall for Atari 2600 is 4K, which is just unfathomable to me, Now this version, and this is kind of one of my problems with the game, is that this version is 32K. It fits on a Commodore 64 cartridge, although there was a disc version as well. You know what tastes good? Coffee in a Commodore mug. Christmas is coming. And you know what your special someone in your life would like is a $2.99 ebook. Written by a nerd about nerd stuff. That's a fake plug. But you know what? That is a good way to end a relationship. I got you something from the heart. Oh, really? Is it a car? Well, close. It's an ebook this guy wrote about how he used to download Commodore games. Oh, that's what I always wanted. Really? No, get out of my house. Sorry. Anyway, other than the fact that they slightly update the way that the trees look in the background, and they don't even look that good, and they're all the same. They just didn't really update the game at all, And the other really drawback to this game is that they released Pitfall and Pitfall 2 at the exact same time from the Commodore 64. So if you ever saw Pitfall 2, The Lost Caverns, and you know how big the level is and all the cool things you could go do and explore and stuff, it really makes this one seem like a simplified version, which it really is. So anyway, I have some fun memories I'll be talking about on this week's show about Pitfall. Some different theories about the game, some little facts about David Crane, all kinds of fun stuff. So I hope you check out this week's episode. You can get it, of course, off iTunes if you're subscribed on Sprite Castle. You could get it from podcast.robohair.com, or you can sign up to the Master Amigos podcast feed. And you'll get this, you'll get the Amigos show, you will get Pixel Guide In, which is another awesome podcast about retro computers and retro games. And so lots of ways to get it. You can always, if you got some time to kill this week, if there's nothing else going on in your life or you need to distract yourself for a few minutes, go find a copy of Pitfall, which again is a very small game. It should take you on a cable modem less than a second to download. And you can go do some adventuring with Pitfall Harry. So if you got some free time, go check that out. So be sure to, I didn't really mention this, but last week, I've mentioned this everywhere. We had a multiple day power outage due to a massive ice storm that took place here in Oklahoma. And so I'm a little bit behind schedule, but I will be releasing episodes of Sprite Castle and You Don't Know Flack this week to get everything back on track. So thanks again for tuning in to a little video, and I will talk to you guys shortly.